what I discovered is RAG seems to be the biggest way for people to take advantage of GPTs and generative AI. I mean, there's different classes of AI, like the machine learning predictive stuff on historical data, but from the generative AI perspective, RAG is kind of the name of the game. And what that is in a high level is taking an LLM and then giving that LLM context or information that from a private data source to make that available to the LLM so that you can then have an interesting conversation. So what that comes down to on a technical basis is you're either querying into a structured database or you're querying into some sort of unstructured data, like a vectorized database with all the words and text of your proprietary information. And so I'm already noticing that trend, and we talked to a couple startups that are doing exactly that kind of work, and I get the sense that that is where people are looking when they're trying to find a way to do generative AI. If they're trying to bring that into their company, they can buy a SaaS product, but really at the end of the day, what they're doing is putting LLMs in front of RAG, so bringing content into them. And I'm noticing there's a lot of, let's call it, breakthroughs and innovations happening on that front in terms of how do we leverage the generative AI for different use cases. That being said, so that was really interesting to me. I saw a couple startups doing just that, and when you start talking to people who work within companies, like non-technology companies, but have a technical background, like for instance, we're talking to somebody right now who runs a data science program at a capital management firm, and what they ran into was effectively, we have generative AI budget, we started on a project, don't really know when this is going to land, if it can go to production, kind of a lot of these components of, we made an investment somewhere, we got moving on that journey, but there's so many places where we need more resources in order to, like, let's call it land the plane and make sure that the company gets value. So everything having to do with that RAG process is, I think, kind of fair game and where all of the developers and all the techies are playing right now.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I heard RAG more times on Saturday than I've heard in my entire life. I think, I was starting to pick things up here and there. There's a lot of intelligent people at this event sharing a lot of insights on what the work they're doing, and I was able to share what we're doing here. It really made me happy to see a lot of people were getting excited about kind of what we're doing and trying to build here. We have this unicorn of a platform that everybody needs, right? And seeing right where we fit in and how to create this business value is really something I'm looking forward to do. And I think people are starting to see that a little bit as well. We're doing a lot to make things a little bit easier in this AI project, right? And I think a lot of people are, like I said before, up top here at this peak, and eventually they're just going to start going down a little bit to where they kind of realize what they're dealing with, and that's where the unicorn comes in. So it's definitely some really exciting conversations we had.
I was really impressed with Texas, day-to-day Texas, because I felt the technical chops were there, and these were people in the trenches working on code, figuring things out. And so as we go back to this concept of RAG, there's so many layers to this new way of doing code, of developing applications with generative AI at the heart of it. And everything from identifying the right data loading, so getting that data put into a context that makes sense to LLMs, i.e. vector DBs, and then the retrieval of that, there's actually some limitations, whether it be on the vector database performance and scalability side of the house in terms of speed, whether it's learning the limitations and having your developers figure out all of these LLM frameworks, right? Like the lang chains and the PyCones and all of that kind of stuff. There's a lot of learning to be had, and there are some patterns, and our goal is to optimize and automate all of that for somebody. So all you have to do as an end user is identify where your data is, say go there, and have Aparavi be the layer that automates all of these ML operations, LLM selection, vector database optimization, querying, data loading, like all of those pieces are things that are brand new to any developer who came from the Web 2 world, right? With APIs and stuff like that, and like typical SQL database queries and front-end applications, like there's an entire layer we call MLOps. And so I think that's the opportunity where we can really help people out, because every developer is used to like learning new tech all the time. I know that when I was learning JavaScript, it went from like React to Angular to like Next.js. There's like all these different hardcore engineering tech that you have to kind of keep up with. And I know MLOps is the new thing that these developers have to deal with. So our goal is to be able to streamline all of those pieces and to facilitate the top level RAG, so that at the end of the day, companies can take advantage of their unstructured data and interact with it with AI rather than the unstructured data mess that they're currently dealing with.
Yeah, it's the easiest way to explain it. I know that we talked to a lot of people that were just surprised at what we were doing, just hitting that aha moment as we finally started to explain it a little bit, which really hit home for me, and was able to figure out our pitch and how to talk about the product a little bit more in depth on the technical side of things. And it's really good to see that people are getting excited about what we have, because we know that we're excited internally.
Yeah, and one level deeper is when we start talking to these teams, maybe they're not the largest teams. Maybe there's 4 people, right? Like the people we're going up to, they have a data science team of 4 people. And that team was, hey, you're the data science team, like you guys have to figure out this AI stuff. And it's more than just knowing, what models to be used, or making those what data are we trying to leverage to get AI. There's just a lot of hardcore engineering work that needs to get done in a completely different tech stack. And so the reality is, when we're talking to people, and every CEO is excited about AI and it's forcing that onto the agenda, these teams are small and they're nimble and they're dynamic and they're agile, but if they can find any help they can to automate away a lot of the AI specific stuff so that they can just focus on bringing value to their organization, that's definitely a sweet spot that we're looking for. And we're going to find as many people as possible to join our early access program, because we think we can compress that time frame, right? All that learning, all of that tuning and modifications to the hardcore engineering pipelines, we want to go and help those people and then bring as many people into the early access program as possible.
Yeah, and like I said, we're here to help. That's what I explain to people a lot at the event too. I promise that it's going to get harder. I promise that it's going to be a lot harder to build the platform that you're looking for. We can help you. I'm a helping hand. I'm not trying to sell you something. And
just on the helping hand, right? You mentioned, people. We find people at the peak of their excitement, and maybe when the reality is kind of settling in. So we talked to our Microsoft advisor, Eduardo Casser, I believe his last name is. But shout out to Eduardo over at Microsoft. Yeah, he was talking to us. He sits there and he advises in multiple AI companies. So there's very few people in the world that have that much exposure to live enterprise AI projects. And he explained exactly that. People get excited and people will drop the first investment, but 2 months into the project, 3 months into the project, they realize, oh, there's all this other overhead that we didn't plan for, and our current development team already has all these different initiatives and things, important projects that they're working on. We're finding people when they're realizing, oh snap, this is not as easy as we thought. It's not just a GitHub repo that I can just copy paste. There's so many more things on the permissions, on the deployment, on the infrastructure side of it, that those are the people that we're finding, and those are the people we want to bring into the early access program, right? It's how do we strategically get involved with companies that are ambitious and just need a little bit of assistance and want to compress some time frames. Overall, that's what we're out to do, and we're finding people all the time with that exact characteristic.
Yeah, the early access program, you really can't beat it. I mean, you get to try something really innovative for free, and then you can, kind of make your decision if you want to do it or not. You get to skip all the annoying sales calls and sales meetings. You can just sign up and get it and just try it out. So if you guys want to try that out, feel free to reach out, and we'll get you on the waiting list. So.